Mr. Trahan, you're recognized for 5 minutes. Mr. Carter, I see you entered into the room. Mr. Trahan, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a Bay Stater and Massachusetts representative, I am excited to speak with you all about the Vineyard Wind Project, the nation's first utility-scale offshore wind energy project, 15 miles off the coast of Massachusetts. The project will generate renewable, affordable energy for over 400,000 homes and businesses while reducing carbon emissions by over 1.6 million tons per year. I want to ask a few questions related to what I'm seeing on the ground in the state. As many of my colleagues have mentioned today, we must ensure that the offshore wind industry is creating stable union jobs for all people, regardless of race and gender. Vineyard Wind and stakeholders throughout the state have been working on a project labor agreement. One challenge I hear about is that the majority of building trade union members in Massachusetts are white, while most of the minority-owned contractors in the Boston area are non-union. My understanding is that this speaks to a larger challenge regarding equity in the offshore wind workforce. Mr. Strong, can you speak to USW's efforts to diversify the union jobs across the offshore wind supply chain?
Well, again, thank you for the question, Congressman. My experience has been with US Wind. When we started that conversation a couple of years ago, obviously we talked about the roles of minority workers. That's a foundation of our union, being diversified. They are committed. They've hired personnel to work with the minority business enterprise. They're working with the other groups to promote the hiring and the use of minority workers and businesses. One of the oldest communities that we have that's located where Bethlehem Steel is, Turner's Point Station, is predominantly African American. They support the project because they know that there's opportunities for those workers in that community to get the good paying union jobs that's going to come there at that facility. But this has been part of our conversation with US Wind, and they're committed to making sure that minorities have access to these jobs, and that they're also committed to making sure that minority businesses are included in their contracts.
Great, I appreciate that. I mean, it's exactly what we mean when we say build back better. Typically, we think of offshore wind investment as the physical construction of majestic turbines in the ocean. But what we're seeing in Massachusetts is that investments span beyond that basic construction. For example, Vineyard Winds is investing $3 million to research and deploy innovative technologies to further safeguard marine mammals. They're providing a $50,000 grant to the New Bedford Port Authority for developing publicly owned port facilities. And they have committed to investing $10 million in projects to accelerate the development of the offshore wind supply chain and infrastructure in Massachusetts. Mr. Hardy, can you speak to the ways these broader offshore wind power supply chain investments help Americans?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. As we've talked about numerous times throughout today, this is a brand new industry, and although maybe people don't realize how different it is from onshore wind, the supply chain is completely different. The turbines look the same, but they're actually quite a bit larger. They're built to different specifications, et cetera. And so the build out of the supply chain across all of the U.S. will create tremendous number of jobs. And as you alluded to with Vineyard Wind's project, which isn't our project, there's a number of other job creations that happen as part of this industry. We've talked about port revitalization and port infrastructure, vessels. We talked about onshore construction of the manufacturing facilities, of the onshore substations, and then the offshore construction jobs and the offshore long-term 30-plus year operation and maintenance jobs, which an offshore maintenance technician is a six-figure job. Typically, so these are not minimum wage, low cost jobs. These are highly advanced, good paying middle class jobs as we build out this industry.
Well, I appreciate that, and my time is ticking down, but I just want to thank the committee. I want to thank the chairman for allowing me to wave on. I'm always happy to share what we're learning from the offshore wind industry in Massachusetts, and certainly learn from the expert panel of witnesses. Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr.